The Christmas Nisse, Chapter 14, Carol Singing. At 5:30, Mrs. Watson called upstairs to Bruno. "I need you to be ready in half an hour. Don't forget, we're going to the town square." "What's happening in the town square?" asked Annalise. "It's the carols in the square this evening," Bruno replied. The Nisse looked at Bruno with surprise. "Why are you going to see many women called Carol? Is she very nice?" "No, silly," Bruno laughed. "It's Christmas carols, not ladies called carols. You know, old-fashioned Christmas songs." Annalise burst into fits of laughter. "Of course, silly. But this sounds magnificent. I love Christmas songs. I very much want to go. I hide in your pocket, yes?" Bruno shrugged his shoulders. "Guess so. It's quite fun. But it's the same every year. But that's the best bits about Christmas. Things should be the same. It is tradition." "Suppose so," agreed Bruno. "What is your favourite Christmas song?" asked Annalise. "We have loads of different ones back home. Do you have too?" "I don't really have a favourite song. There's so many. Tons and tons of Christmas songs." "What like?" Last Christmas, and this is by a band called Wham." "Excusing me? A music group calling itself Wham? This is a mactastic silly name." Most of the pop songs are really old, like from the 70s and 80s. This, Bruno, is not old to a Nisse who is 123 years old. "Guess not. What else?" "There's one that goes, 'Oh, I wish it could be Christmas every day.' This is great. I also sometimes wish every day was Christmas." And there's really old songs like "Frosty the Snowman," "White Christmas," and "Chestnuts roasting on an open fire." Annalise's face glowed with the thought of roasted chestnuts. "This is your traditional Christmas song?" she asked. "Well, sort of. Yeah, of course. The most traditional are the Christmas carols. That's what we're going to sing tonight. 'Away in a Manger,' 'Deck the Halls,' 'Little Donkey,' and 'Silent Night,' all that lot." "Silent Night? This may be the same as in Germany," she guessed. "They have a song that goes, 'Quiet night, holy night.' Yeah, sounds like it's pretty much the same as ours." Bruno and his mum set off to the town square. If you had looked very carefully, you could have seen the top of a small green hat popping out of Bruno's pocket. By the time they arrived at the square, there were over 100 people gathered around the brass band that were playing "Good King Wenceslas." As the band played the carols, everyone joined in with the songs that they knew and the parts of the songs that they kind of knew, and they hummed and la-la'd the rest. There was one lady who was singing very enthusiastically, even though she only seemed to know half of the words. Then a kind woman, a kind old lady, approached them with a gentle smile. "Merry Christmas to all three of you," she said. Miss Watson looked confused. "Thank you, Mrs. Anderson, but there's only two of us now." "Oh, yes, of course, my mistake." But with a knowing smile, she turned to Bruno and gave him a bag full of peppernuts. "These are homemade, and they are for you and anyone might want to share them with. She glanced at his pocket and then back at Bruno. Have a wonderful Christmas. And with that, she walked into the crowd and disappeared. Do you think she saw you? Whispered Bruno. Nopey dopey, Annalise replied. How could she? Anyway, she is friendly. Peppernuts, Yum tummy tum tum tum. Annalise looked around, and among the happy, smiling people, she noticed a sour-faced girl. She saw her talking to her parents. This is stupid, the girl moaned. Why do I have to come and do this every year? They're just silly old songs, and it's cold, and why couldn't I just stay at home and watch the telly? Where's my mince pies? You promised I could get loads of mince pies. Annalise noted how unchristmassy this girl was and decided she was going to teach her a lesson. As she decided what to do, a smile started to spread across her face and she let out a little giggle. Ping! After a few minutes, there was a pause in the singing, and the people dressed in hats and scarves began to hand out steaming cups of mulled wine to the adults and hot chocolate to the children. Bruno waited patiently for his hot chocolate. He was glad of it when it came, as he was just starting to feel a little bit chilly. But with a few sips, he started to feel snug and warm again, holding the cup with both mittens. Then he had a faint, followed soon after by a scream from the other side of the square. Yuck, 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 that's gross, screamed the girl, spitting the food out of her mouth. Daddy, I don't know what that's supposed to be, but it's clearly not a mince pie. Her father tried to calm her down, but to his horror, when he looked at her face, he saw that her nose was getting rounder and rounder and was beginning to flash bright red. Everyone in the square was watching her now and was laughing at her nose. They all thought it must have been a plastic nose that she'd put on. But soon her face was covered in brown fur and antlers were starting to sprout out at the top of her head. And her nose kept flashing on and off, on and off. People began to laugh even more as they thought it must be some kind of joke. When the girl's parents saw what was happening, however, they dragged her away from the square to find out what was happening to their daughter. Bruno knew exactly who was responsible. What did you put in her mince pie, Annalise? He asked. Through her giggling, she told him. I just point my finger and turn her mince pie into magic reindeer food. It makes her head turn into Rodolph, just for an hour or two. Then she back to her silly normal self. She was being too unchristmassy. I not like her being so spoilt, so I teach her a lesson. The singing started again and everyone had a wonderful time. Annalise knew a few of the tunes and joined in singing. And they all went home with a warm, fuzzy feeling inside.